ईश्वरां सा चिदानन्दरूपां लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भ्रजमानाम् यशोदाभियोनुखलाधावमानं परमृष्टमात्तां ततो द्रुतगोप्या नमामि शारां सा चिदानन्दरूपां लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भजमानाम् रुदन्तं मुहुर्नेत्रं युग्मं मृजन्तं करं भुजयुग्मेन शातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुशशुकं पुत्रीरेखाङ्ककण्ठ स्थितग्रैव दामोदरं भोक्तिवर्धम् नमामि शारां सा चिदानन्दरूपां लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भजमानाम् इति दृक्षलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे सघोषं निमज्जन्तं अख्यापयन्तम् तदेशितज्ञेषु भक्तैर्जितात्तां पुनः प्रेमतास्तां शतवृत्तिवन्दे नमामि शारां सा चिदानन्दरूपां लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भजमानाम् वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षवधिं वा न चान्नं गृह्णेऽहं वरेषदपीह ईदन्ते गोकुर्नाथ गोपाल बाला सदा मे मनसा विरास्तां किमन्यै ईदन्ते गोकुर्नाथ गोपाल बाला सदा मे मनसा विरास्तां किमन्यै नमामि शारां सा चिदानन्दरूपां लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले भजमानाम् ईदन्ते मुखम्बुजामत्यन्तनीलै वृतं कुन्तलै स्निग्धा रक्तैश्च गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बारक्ताधरं मे मनसा विरास्तामलं लक्ष्यलाभै Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namo Devo Damodaraya Ananta Vishnu Proshida Prabhu Dukho Jalabhimagna Namo Devo Damodara Ananta Vishnu Proshida Prabhu Dukho Jalabhimagna Kripa Drishti Vrishati Dinam Vatanu Grihane Shamamagame Dhakshi Drisha Kripa Drishti Vrishati Dinam Vatanu Grihane Shamamagame Dhakshi Drisha Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Kuberatmajo Baddha Murtaiva Jadvat Tayamachito Bhakti Bhajo Krito Cha Kuberatmajo Baddha Murtaiva Jadvat Tayamachito Bhakti Bhajo Krito Cha Tatha Prema Bhakti Shakam Me Prajacha Namokshe Groho Mesti Damodareha Tatha Prema Bhakti Shakam Me Prajacha Namokshe Groho Mesti Damodareha Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Dhamne Tadiyodharayatha Vishasya Dhamne Namaste Studamne Spuradipti Dhamne Tadiyodharayatha Vishasya Dhamne Namo Radhikaya Tadiya Priyaya Namo Ananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Radhikaya Tadiya Priyaya Namo Ananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Namami Sharamsa Chidananda Rupa Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhajamana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to all the wonderful devotees online. Thank you very much for your association. We are covering Canto 1, Chapter 8, verses 1 to 7, a new chapter, the son of Drona punished. Om Jnanatime Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan hitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokai Prit Prada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalidwando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most permanent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actual Lord Krishna, who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabando Mad Sangim Mad Guru Mad Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadahi natti nichochataraka hanamuncha kada chinmam premna ritkatyospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift to the very fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest in my heart and my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaditaratas Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Swena Sada Nirastakuakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destructions of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are put into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent, transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayano Paisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Madayo Manda Bhagyo Padrita. O learned one, it is ionage of Kali men about short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narachaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Naran Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savaipum saparo dharmo yato bhaktira dakshaja haitukiya pratyata yayatma suprisadeti. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janati Yasya Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahitvikam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shri Shri Shrosharadanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. Who twice born sages, by serving those devotees, are completely freed from all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains the benefit by hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Rityantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Shri Shatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. So let us cover some feedback from last week's last set of verses from chapter 6, verses 34 to 38. Please share any feedback, anything that you took home that you found interesting, that you thought of remembering. Madhachana Siddhi says, Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his sleep for us to give, sacrifice his sleep to give us his Bhaktivedanta purports. We should be grateful for the sacrifice and for his love for us. Yes, thank you. Any other feedback? I can also, if anybody wants to unmute and share, you're also welcome to unmute and share. Is that it? So Nalini Kanta says that it's Jivanta Matanga. Like Jiva, the soul, so Jivanta. You get the Priyat Mardanga and the Jivanta Mardanga. And the Jivanta Mardanga, by his association, we are able to get the holy name, get Priyat Mardanga, because the books won't go on their own. The books are taken by the Jivanta Mardanga. The devotees become the medium to broadcast the glories of Krishna. Shama says, material life means infection. We need to remove the disease. And the secret is constant chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Correct. All right. Let us continue. Okay, so we, Nalini Kanta also says, when people die, others lament. When Narad Muni left, we were joyful. And Mala says, surrendering to the spiritual master and following the 40 principles is real freedom. Thank you very much for your feedback. So we're now going to continue. We are now covering a new chapter, chapter 7. So we covered Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into 4 different specific sections of chapters. The first section we covered 1 to 6, which is Narada and Vyasadeva. And we covered these first 6 chapters where we heard about the sages of Namishavanya that were gathered there. And Sutta Goswami was sharing what he had heard from Sukadev Goswami regarding the Bhagavatam. They had presented questions. He began to answer the questions and sharing about the purpose of life, how one can ultimately perfect one's life or the ultimate good for all humanity, about the Supreme Lord, his incarnations, about Srimad Bhagavatam, and how Srimad Bhagavatam was appeared in this world, linking to Srila Vyasadeva, how Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedas. He was despondent. Narad Muni appeared, and Narad Muni shared both from a theoretical perspective, that means philosophical perspective, told him why, and also gave his own example as a practical evidence for the truth that he was sharing. And after sharing his life story, Narad Muni then departs. So now we're entering the next section of chapters, which is chapter 7 to 11, Krishna in Hastinapur and Dwarka. So in this beginning sets of verses of this chapter, of this 7th chapter, very, very wonderful. If you have read the purports, you would have seen that the first 3 verses have very small purports, and then the next verses have extensive purports, very lengthy purports. So before I speak about the truth, I'll just read 2 more feedback that I got from Rasaj Prabhu. Devotional service to the Lord is more important and effective than artificial control of the senses, correct? And Bafana Prabhu says, Prabhupada simplifying dexterity is amazing. Natural psychology in every individual person's like to hear and enjoy their personal glories. So it is with Lord Krishna, if he is glorified by chanting his glories, the only difference is that he is supreme, but his psychology is similar to us. I believe Vyasadeva is now pacified. So we're going to now hear about Vyasadev's situation. What happened? His spiritual master had shared truth, gave him a solution. What did he do? And we're going to see Shonaka Rishi is going to, they're also inquisitive. They also want to know exactly what happened. So they're going to start off this chapter like that. Now, before I get into this chapter, which is going to be sharing with us the absolute truth, the truth about creation, the truth about what exists. And people, have this innate ability or desire to find the truth. So they're searching for the truth, both from the professors to the scientists to the layman, educated and layman in general. Everybody wants to know the truth. They look at the sky, they want to know, is there a creator? Who created it? How does creation is working? And the question I have is people in general, so not looking at the saintly people, not looking at the sages, not looking at personalities like Srila Vyasadeva, but the general mass of people in terms of how they searching for the truth. Will they discover the truth? And you can obviously share yes or no, and why not. So you can share, will the general mass of people who are searching for this truth and researching and like the scientists, etc., will they discover the truth, yes or no? And you can justify or expand on your answer. Nalini Kanta says, no, through their ways, their knowledge is incomplete. Good. Vasaraj Prabhu says, yes and no, only by the mercy of a devotee. All right, good. Shama says, with the scientists, the truth is limited as it is explored from a material perspective. Yes, correct. Madachana says no, because they are ignorant. Bhavana Prabhu says, ultimately, yes, they will. God is merciful and has done everything for our good. All right, good. We will cover that. Nalini Kanda says, but if they get the mercy of a devotee, then they will find truth. Yes. And Ratnaleka says, no, unless they meet a devotee. Otherwise, they're just speculating. All right, fantastic. Thank you. So Jagannath Prabhu says, no, they do not have a shelter of a spiritual master. So if they just research on the material platform with their material senses, with their material instruments, there is no coming to that. There is no end to their search, and they will never, ever find the truth. In fact, the more they search, the more they'll become bewildered. The deeper they enter into the functioning and the mystery of the creation, the more they become bewildered. As long as they don't approach, as many of you said, a pure devotee of the Lord, or connecting with the system that the Lord arranged for them to receive the truth will never be available. Einstein says, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. This is the challenge when people start to, just like if they start to go into the functioning of just this body, the brain, the body, its interaction in how it's working and functioning, it just becomes baffling. They become baffled. And we find how even scientists moving from understanding physics to quantum physics, they start to see things that doesn't make sense. And they're trying to step into the spiritual realm, the conscious realm, with material faculties, and that cannot be done. So we're going to be covering verses 1 to 7. Vyasadev's vision and glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So first 3 verses 1 to 3. Questions by Shonaka Rishi about Vyasadev and the answer by Sutta Goswami. And then 4 to 7, he saw the Lord Maya and the suffering jivas whose miseries will be mitigated by bhakti. Thus, he compiled Bhagavatam. So text 1. Sonaka uvacha nirgate narade sutta Bhagavan Badarayana Shrutavam Stad Abhipretam Tatakim Akarod Vibhu. Sri Shonaka said, Sri Shonaka asked, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narad Muni. So after Narad's departure, what did Vyasadeva do? So Shonaka Rishi was asking on behalf of all the sages. They were curious. He got the answer both philosophically and theoretically, or you could say theoretically and practically, through Narad Muni's own experience. So what did he do? So they were very, very curious to know more about Srila Vyasadev's journey. And in this verse also, Shonaka says, Bhagavan Badarayana. We also mentioned that Bhagavan can be used for powerful personalities. So in this case, even sages can be called Bhagavan. Right? But the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, he is Bhagavan of all Bhagavans. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. So in that way, we find in scripture sometimes when Bhagavan is referred, is a reference to demigods, great personalities, people become confused. And they come to this conclusion, see, it's all one, everyone's God. But no, not everyone's God. Bhagavan, in terms of Sanskrit and its use, here it's used in terms of powerful. Srila Vyasadeva was transcendently powerful. But Bhagavan also, in its complete sense, means that personality who owns all opulences in unlimited quantity. And that definition only fits in relation to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, In this chapter, the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavatam is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. This was caused by Droni, Ashwatthama, Acharya Drona's son, who killed the 5 sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. So Prabhupada is now giving us a sutra, a perfect statement of the verses we're going to read. That Srila Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. He heard about how to rectify his dissatisfaction, his mistake, and Narad Muni had instructed him to go into meditation, samadhi, and then he did that. He then realized the truth. So having the knowledge is one thing. Realizing the knowledge is more important. We can receive knowledge from Krishna, just like from Bhagavad Gita, we can receive that knowledge. That's Gyan. And when we apply the process of Krishna consciousness and get the blessings and the mercy of the Lord, we can then realize that knowledge called Vigyan. So Srila Vyasadeva had realized not just partial truths, not just parts and pieces of it, but the whole truth. And how did he realize the whole truth? By trance in devotion. So the mechanism or the medium, the process was devotion, full absorption in devotion, trance, and that gave him realization of the whole truth. So what Srila Vyasadeva is going to share with us is the whole truth. As they say, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Which means if we learn, digest, assimilate, and accept what Narad Muni, what Srila Vyasadeva is going to tell us, we technically know the truth, the whole truth. And there's nothing outside that whole truth. He's not giving a part and we don't know another piece of it. No, he's giving us the whole truth. There is nothing outside this whole truth. So whatever Srila Vyasadeva is going to share is the whole truth. The way he realized it is very, very, very important. So here we see gold kept in the sun planet. And we find people are trying to get this gold through what we call the ascending process. And no matter what they do, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how much energy they exert, no matter how skilled they are, no matter how knowledgeable they are, no matter how long they take, there is absolutely no way they're going to get that gold, which is situated in the sun planet. Firstly, it's beyond their ability. And even if they did have the ability to enter into the sun planet, they don't have the body for it and they'll be burnt. So it's useless for these individuals to try to strive to acquire this gold which is in the sun planet. To get out of the material world, the earth planet itself, just on your own mechanical means, is impossible. Even if you build the most sophisticated spaceship, for you to enter into the sun planet, the sun globe, is impossible. You'll be burnt. What to talk about entering? Just approaching the sun planet, your vehicle will be burnt. You'll be burnt. So there's no way anyone can achieve that gold. through the ascending process. But through a descending process, it's very simple. If Krishna decides, okay, let me give you the gold from the sun planet, he can go pick up the gold from the sun planet and come and hand over the gold to you. In fact, he doesn't even need to go into the sun planet to give you the gold. Just by him desiring, the gold will go from the sun planet into your hands. Why? Because Krishna is all powerful. Krishna is the supreme controller of all powers, all control, all laws and aspect of his creation. Therefore, if Krishna wants to give us and bestow his mercy in this way, then it's very, very simple. That's the descending process. So Srila Vyasadeva discovered the truth not through an ascending process. He discovered the truth through a descending process, through a process where that knowledge, that truth was coming down through disciplic succession, through the mercy of Narad Muni, through the mercy of the Lord. And in this way, he was able to understand the truth of Goloka Vrindavan, of the spiritual world, and Krishna's multifaceted energies, etc., through a descending process. On our own, we don't have the ability to know about things beyond our senses. Even with our senses are limited to research and understand truth. So from using our own abilities, impossible. We cannot discover the truth through an ascending process. Through a descending process, it's very simple. We don't even need the qualifications. It is simply the blessings and the mercy of the Lord that we are able to receive the truth. Text 2. Sutta Uvacha Brahmanadyam Saraswatyam Ashrama Paschime Tate Samya Prasha Iti Prokta Rishnam Shatravardhana. Sutta said, Sri Sutta said, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation at Samya Prasha, which enlivens the transcendental activities of the sages. So now Sudha Goswami is sharing the incident of Srila Vyasadeva, what he's doing and what he realized. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the spiritual atmosphere. And in the verse, it says, Brahmanadyam Saraswatyam. Brahmanadyam means on the bank of the river, intimately related with the Vedas, the Brahmanas, the saints, and the Lord. Saraswatyam, Saraswati. So Vyasadeva was at the bank, western bank of the river Saraswati. There are three main goddesses in this creation. The goddess Saraswati, who's in the center. She's the consort of Lord Brahma, and she's in charge of knowledge. Then Mother Lakshmi, the eternal consort of Narayan, Lord Narayan, in charge of wealth, and Mother Parvati, in eternal consort of Lord Shiva, in charge of this material creation. So Mother Saraswati also manifests in this world in the form of a river, and it is explained that the auspiciousness of this river, the glory of this river, is that it's intimately related to the Vedas, the Brahmanas, saints, and the Lord. So it's related to that aspect of spiritual nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada in the purport says, for spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati is especially suitable for this purpose. And there is the ashram of Vyasadeva at Samya Prasha. Srila Vyasadeva was a householder, yet his residential place is called an ashram. An ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. I'll repeat that again. An ashram is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. So Srila Vyasadeva was Grihastha, householder. We as householders need to make our home, our house, into an ashram. So we don't want to stay in a house. We want to stay in an ashram. And an ashram means where spiritual culture is always foremost, which means it's a spiritual environment. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a household or a mendicant. The whole Varnashram system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashram. This means that spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, the grihastas, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis all belong to the same mission of life, namely realization of the Supreme. So now Prabhupada is giving us the definition of an ashram or spiritual culture. Because your understanding of an ashram, somebody else's understanding of spiritual culture may be totally different. So in order for us to have the same understanding, an ashram means a spiritual environment, spiritual culture. And spiritual culture means or realization of the Supreme. So any place, any home where the focus of that environment, that home, is realization of the Supreme, that becomes an ashram. So an ashram or a temple even, it's like generally in an ashram, in temple we have ashrams, we have like a brahmachari ashram. Doesn't mean that there's just celibate students there and that becomes a brahmachari ashram. No, it's not about bodies. Even though those bodies are dressed with tilak, kunti, mala, and dhoti, sari, etc. It's not the bodies that we're talking about. You could have 100 people in a home or in an ashram, and that does not make it an ashram. An ashram means that those personalities who are staying there, their focus must be spiritual culture, always foremost, okay? Which means not just temporarily, not just by the way, not in the background. The most important part of their existence is realization of the Supreme, foremost and always. That becomes a ashram. That becomes a spiritually powerful place. And when one enters into that environment, the energy that's created from that culture, from that ashram, is very conducive for realization of the Supreme. Therefore, Prabhupada continues, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is a matter of formality on the strength of renunciation. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of practical renunciation. So the different ashrams have the same focus, spiritual culture, realization of the Supreme, and the difference in their ashrams, so to speak, or their individual profiles is more based on renunciation. The sannyasi is completely renounced. He does not have, a house. He basically accepts the whole earth planet as his home. The sky is his roof. And all the people on this planet, all the living entities are his family members. This is a sannyasi, completely renounced compared to the other ashrams. So Srila Vyasadeva was at the bank of this, or the bank of the Saraswati River, and very conducive, very ideal for him to apply the instructions that Narad Muni gave him. Prabhupada, in a lecture in Durban, October 14, 1975, makes two important points in regards to this verse. Prabhupada says, formerly this is the title, formerly big saintly persons, they used to live in forest ashrams. Here is a place, Samya Prasha, above Haridwar. There, Vyasadev's ashram was situated on the river Brahmanadi, Saraswati, on the western side. Paschime Tate, Vishnam Satra Vardhana. There, all the great sages, saintly persons used to perform sacrifice. The ashram was surrounded by berry tree, Badaris. Badaris Sanda. Sanda means trees. So in that ashram, formerly big saintly persons, they used to live in the forest ashram. Now they have to come far away from the ashram to South Africa because people have forgotten. Formerly big persons, they used to visit the ashram, but nowadays people are not interested. Anartha, they are captivated by material external energy. So here we see the picture, Madhvacharya is probably saying, big persons, they would go to the forest, they would go to the ashram where Vyasadeva was. So people that were interested in spiritual life, they would all travel to the forests, to these amazing forest places where Saraswati was, and inquire from saintly persons. Just like Madhvacharya, he went to Badrik Ashram and met Vyasadeva, who is still currently there, but you need transcendental vision to see Vyasadeva. Madhvacharya was advanced enough to personally get a darshan of Vyasadeva, and he learned Bhagavad Gita. In fact, he had a commentary and they were discussing, and Srila Vyasadeva was sharing and teaching him about Bhagavad Gita. So this is how he received, this is how he got connected to our disciplic succession. Even though Srila Vyasadeva, in terms of age, gap is vast, but Vyasadeva is still present, and therefore great persons like Madhvacharya can still go visit him and still get knowledge. So Prabhupada is saying that was happening, but now nobody's interested. So nobody goes to the Himalayas to inquire. They're all captivated by external energies. So now what must happen? The sadhus now, they need to come to South Africa. So like Srila Prabhupada came to South Africa. So the pure devotees, they have to leave the forests and they have to now go to every part of the planet to give knowledge, to give their blessings and mercy. Then Prabhupada continues another part of the lecture. Vaishnavas under instruction of Mahaprabhu should go door to door. It is said that not only now, formerly also, but formerly the number of people who were not interested were very, very small. At present moment, the number of interested people are very, very small. That is the difference, Kali Yuga. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he inaugurated this Krishna conscious movement, that people in this age are no more interested in their value of life. They are in darkness. Therefore, Vaishnava, under the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, should go door to door, country to country, town to town, and preach Krishna consciousness for their benefit. So just as the great sadhus would receive people who are interested in spiritual life, now people aren't interested, therefore, and the Vaishnavas, devotees, following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have to go to people. We should not wait for people to come to us. We need to go to the people because people are not interested, so they're not going to come to us. Yes, we may try different ways to attract them, but ultimately, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's focus and instruction was go to them. Right? So we should have different means to go to the people, make it easier for them to have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness easily accessible to them without them even leaving their homes. Country to country, town to town, door to door. Lord Nityananda himself went door to door. Haridas Thakur, door to door. Sri Mahaprabhu traveled all over India on foot. This shows the compassionate nature of extending themselves and giving Krishna consciousness to others. Text 3. Tasmin swa ashrame vyaso badri sandama bandite asino popashrishya pranida dyomana swayam. In that place, Srila Vyasadeva, in his own ashram, which was surrounded by berry trees, sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. Prabhupada says in the purport, under the instruction of his spiritual master, Srila Narad Muni, Vyasadeva concentrated his mind in that transcendental place of meditation. So Srila Vyasadeva sat down ready for meditation and applied the process that he was given by the instruction of Narad Muni. And now we're going to hear what happened. What did he see? What did he realize? And the next set of verses is basically the set of verses which is going to be the hub of Srimad Bhagavatam. These verses are going to reveal to us what the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is about. If we want to understand all 18,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam and what is the focus of the Srimad Bhagavatam, then it's revealed in these verses that we're going to cover now. And specifically, it's focused around Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tattva, philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, inconceivable one and difference of the Supreme Lord and his energies. This is the culmination of the truth that Sri Mahaprabhu has given to us, which is basically Srimad Bhagavatam. Different acharyas that the Lord had sent may have presented different parts of the truth, different aspects and facets of the truth. Just like Jesus, Muhammad, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Buddha, Sankaracharya, they all came to give different pieces of the truth, right? Or different sections of the truth. Sri Mahaprabhu came to then conclude the truth by giving, you could say, taking all the truths from these different personalities and then concluding those truths in the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which Srila Vyasadeva is now going to reveal to us through his meditation. So these sets of verses 4 to 7 is revealing what Narad Muni, what Srila Vyasadeva saw in his meditation. And this the meditation, because remember, Narad Muni had told him that you need to do this through the practice of Bhakti Yoga so that you can glorify the Lord extensively, because that's what you didn't do. And in order for him to glorify the Lord extensively, he had to realize the glories of the Lord. Not just theoretically know, but realize the glories. So now, by the mercy of Narad Muni, he's realizing the truths, the glories of the Supreme Lord. And that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is about. Text 4. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apasyat purusham purnam mayam chatat apashrayam. Thus, he fixed his mind, perfectly engaged it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yogena Manasi. So that was the process that he applied, the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without any tinge of materialism, amale means no impurities. Male means impurities, so no impurities, amale. Without any tinge of materialism, and thus what happened? He saw the absolute truth. Apasyat Purusham Purnam. The absolute personality of God along with his external energy, which was under full control. So he perfected his trance through the process of bhakti yoga. And he saw the supreme absolute truth. And in the verse, it says Purusham Purnam. Prabhupada will expand on that because it's not clear who he saw. It just says Purusham Purnam. Purusham means the personality of Godhead. Purnam means complete. And Mayam Chatad Apashrayam. He also didn't just see the Supreme Lord, but he saw external energy. And what was the relationship? The Supreme Lord controlled the external energy. Now, these purports that Prabhupada gives to these verses are extensive. They're very, very long. We're going to go through the purports because they're important. If you see, Prabhupada gave few lines to the first few verses. These ones, Prabhupada is giving extensive purport, which means very important that we get it. Very important that we understand these purports, because if we understand these purports very clear, without any doubt, it's going to lay the perfect foundation for the rest of the Bhagavatam. And as we go chapter by chapter, canto by canto, the foundation becomes more and more solid. Our realization and acceptance and faith becomes more and more sound and stronger, ultimately entering into the 10th canto, where we can now enter into the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So this is all been, the foundation is now being built for us. It's been laid for us. And therefore we should not just skip over these purports, or these purports are too long, let's just jump over that next one. This one's shorter, this one I can accept. No, we need to really try to go through them and digest that. Because Prabhupada would not do things, as I said, intentionally, whimsically. No, Prabhupada did everything very, very conscientiously. So the statement, Pashyat Purusham Purnam. Who he saw, he didn't see Narayan. He didn't see Lord Ramachandra. He didn't see any of the incarnations. He didn't see, who somebody would call God. No, he saw that personality of Godhead who is Purnam, complete, absolute. And there's only one absolute, complete personality of Godhead in every aspect, and that is Krishna. And this will be confirmed in the verses to follow as well. So Prabhupada is going to tell us this is the person that we're talking about, but it will be confirmed in a verse that's going to follow. Prabhupada says, perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. So this is the first statement Prabhupada starts off. If you want perfect realization of the absolute truth, you want perfect realization of everything that's there in creation, there's only one process, and that is devotional service. The process of karma, the process of jnana, the process of Ashtanga yoga is not going to give you that perfect vision. It can take you higher, but it must take you to pure devotional service for you to realize. So that's the first most important point. That is why we find in the verse, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. Now, Srila Vyasadeva applied this process, linking process, Yogena, to link process of bhakti. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Bhakti Mama Vijanati. Only by undivided devotional service can I be understood. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of God and his activities. So that was Narada Muni's instruction. That is what Srila Vyasadeva did. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. So it's interesting here, Srila Prabhupada is making the point that, because remember, these verses are giving us like a brief synopsis of what happened. Naturally, Srila Vyasadeva must have went through a journey. And on the journey of realizing the absolute truth, he also saw the Brahman effulgence, the Paramatma feature, then the Bhagavan feature. When he saw the Brahman feature, he did not stop there. Oh, wonderful, light. Yes, God is light, and stop there. No. He didn't get caught in that trap. And so therefore, Prabhupada is making the point. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence. He knew that there's more to the light. There's more beyond this light of the absolute truth. The absolute vision is the personality of God, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. In Upanishads also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden, glowing Hiranmayana Patrena veil of impersonal Brahman. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha, or person. The absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purusha is confirmed as the eternal original person. The absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person. Supreme person has manifold energies, out of which the internal, external, and margin energies are specifically important. When Srila Vyasadeva saw the personality of Godhead, the perfect Purusha, it's not that he only saw a person, because Krishna, the Supreme Person, is not just alone, isolated. Krishna is always with his devotees and his energies. So, Vyasadeva saw Krishna, Supreme Person, and he also saw Krishna's energies. And the three specific categories of energies: internal, external, marginal. In this verse, he's talking about the marginal energy, which was a little distant away, but controlled by the Supreme Person. So the material energy is under full control. That means Krishna never comes under the control of material energy. Then he also saw the internal energy. And the internal energy, the personification of the internal energy is Radharani, which means that he didn't just see Krishna, but he saw Radha Krishna. He saw the Lord and his energies. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statement of activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person. And Prabhupada is now giving us an example. As the moonlight is there with the moon. So if I see the moon, it's implied that I'm also seeing the moonlight. I cannot see the moon without moonlight. You can't separate them. Just like if somebody says, oh, see, here's fire. When I see the fire, it means I'm seeing heat and, or rather I'm seeing light and I'm experiencing heat. I can't separate them. Similarly, when Srila Vyasadeva or Sutta Goswami is revealing that Srila Vyasadeva saw the absolute person, means he also saw Srimati Radhavani. He also saw the internal potency. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. So there's Yoga Maya, spiritual Maya, and there's Mahamaya, or the inferior energy. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are Atmarama, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya or internal energy. So therefore, we're getting now the glimpse. Sometimes people say, where's Radharani in the whole of Bhagavatam? The Bhagavatam is about Radharani. Even though Krishna is the focal point, but really if we look at what Srila Vyasadeva is seeing, and Prabhupada's statement here, that those who are caught up in the material energy, who are overcome by ignorance, they can get freed by taking shelter of the internal energy, Radharani. And those who are Atmarama, fixed in trance, they also take shelter of Radharani. So therefore, we find Srimad Bhagavatam is all about taking shelter of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri means Radharani. Srimad Bhagavatam means scripture of Radha and Krishna. Devotional service or bhakti yoga is the function of the internal energy. And thus there is no space, there is no place for the inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of God, Shri Krishna. The Param Purusham cannot be anyone except Shri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the later slokas. So in this first verse, Srila Vyasadeva saw Krishna, Radharani, material energy, and the material energy being completely controlled by the Supreme Lord Krishna. And the material energy was a little distance, not in front. Prabhupada, in a lecture, again 1975, Prabhupada says, Purnam is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, complete. So here, Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranite Amale. Amale means we can completely clean. So what did he see? If the mind becomes cleansed, apashyat, he could see. Apashyat Purnam, Purusham Purnam. Purusham Purnam. Purusham person. Purnam complete. We are also persons, every individual being, but we are not Purnam. We are Apurnam. Purnam is the person, Supreme Personality of Godhead, complete. Complete with everything. That is Purnam. Right? So complete in every aspect. Complete in terms of potencies, complete in terms of gunas or attributes, qualities, complete in terms of rasas and exchanges that he can have, complete in every aspect. The other incarnations and expansions, they have certain fractions of these different potencies, qualities, characteristics. Both things are there. Purusham, Krishna, and Maya also. And Mayam Chatad Apashrayam. And the backside is Maya. Maya means the external energy. Just like if you stand facing the sun, the backside of there's a big shadow. That is Maya. So both things are there. The Purusham, Krishna, and Maya also. Both things he saw. But he is not affected by Maya. This is the special significance of Krishna. Although Maya is there, he says, Mayam Chatad Apashrayam. Maya is there, but Krishna is not influenced by Maya. But he is control of Maya. Therefore, he is described Ishwara Parama Krishna. Ishwara means controller. We are controlled by Maya, but Krishna is the control of Maya. That is the difference. We are not controller, we are controlled. The Mayavadis, they say when Krishna takes birth in this world, he is under the influence of Maya. But it's very, very clear. Krishna does not take birth, and Krishna is not under the influence of the material energy. Krishna is the controller of the material energy, Maya. So the word, the process that Vyasadeva used was Bhakti Yoga Manasi. Bhakti comes from the root word bhaja, which Prabhupada gives in Bhagavad Gita, it means worship. Right? Bhaj, also Bhakti means bhaj, which also means give and take. Giving in love and taking in love. So the devotee, he is giving in love. Whatever is given to him, he is giving that with love for the pleasure of the Lord. He is giving that to the Supreme Lord. And the Lord is accepting that and then reciprocating that love. So therefore, the devotee takes the mercy with great delight, great love. So this giving and taking, infused with love, not exploitation, right? Not some motivation, some sense gratification, but out of love. And samyak pranihite amale. Samyak, perfectly, complete, pranite, engaged in, fixed upon. So he perfected the process of bhakti yoga. That means his realization was in pure devotional service, prema bhakti, not sadhana bhakti, not the initial practices of Krishna consciousness, but perfection of Krishna, perfection of love. That's when he got this realization. That's when he was bestowed this realization by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he saw Krishna, he saw Srimati Radharani, he saw Durga, the material energy, and that's what's described, but he saw everything else in relation to them. What is the everything else that's in relation to them? When you see Radha and Krishna, it's not just Radha and Krishna, but there's unlimited pastimes related to them. So for example, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Krishna, he says, Radhikara prema guru ami shishya nata sada atma nana nritya nachaya udvata. The love of Radhika is my teacher, and I am her dancing pupil. Her prem makes me dance various novel dances. So consider this statement. Vyasadeva saw Radha and Krishna, but he saw everything else in terms of, as Lord Krishna is saying, my novel dances. Krishna learns, Krishna is a student in front of Srimati Radharani in terms of love. And her love makes Krishna dance in various novel dances. So those are different pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the devotees of Vrindavan. All those different pastimes is also what was seen in trance by Srila Vyasadeva. And because this is very esoterical, deep, and intimate, because when there's love, there's no secrets. So because it's intimate, we find that these pastimes of Krishna is right at the end, right at the end. Because when Srila Vyasadeva is going to present the remedy to us in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, he also very systematically presented Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way so that everyone who systematically goes through it will be able to enter into these deepest esoterical truths of the absolute truth. If he gave it initially due to our conditioned nature, we would become very offensive and not accept. So therefore, very expertly, very systematically, he is giving it to us an appropriate time. We find Srila Prabhupada doing the same thing with his Bhaktivedanta purports. Prabhupada is telling us specific things at specific stages in his purports, both within one purport, what Prabhupada says at what specific times, and within each chapter, within each canto, and within all Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada is revealing the truth, giving us the education very systematically, very, very wonderfully, as an expert physician is diagnosing and treating the ill-infected jivas in this material world, and giving us the medication so that if we just systematically go and digest, accept this medication and treatment, we will be perfectly cured and able to appreciate, accept, and be part of Krishna's eternal dances. Text 5. Yayasam ohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropim manute nartam tatkritam chabidpadyate. Due to this external energy, so linking from the previous verse, this is what he saw the material energy, and due to this material energy, a living entity. So now we find jiva, yayasam hito jiva. Now we find another energy, a jiva, living entity. Samhita means illusion. So the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product, and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So Atmanam Trigunatmakam, he's actually para, he's transcendental to the three modes. He is superior energy compared to the inferior energy. And because he's identifying himself, anaratam, that which is not connected to, he's thinking he's connected. Just like we in a material world, we're thinking, this is me. I'm male, I'm female, I'm Indian, I'm black, I'm white, I'm South African, I'm American. We're identifying with this body and things related to this body. Right? This is my home. Where do you stay? South Africa, Gauteng. This is a false identification. Because of this false identification, we are experiencing the miseries. We are going through the miseries because of this false identification under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Prabhupada gives an extensive purport. The root cause and the extensive purport is relevant to us. So therefore, you could say that this purport is the most important. Why? Because you mentioned here, Srila Vyasadeva saw the meditation, and he was in trance. He saw Radha and Krishna. He saw the material energy, and he saw me. Wow, that's amazing. Right? He saw, oh, just see, there's that living entity in Gauteng, South Africa, in the Earth planet, where Brahma's got 4 heads. In Weltevreden Park. There, his name is Nishingananda. There's the Jiva. And that Jiva, what's happening with him? He's Trigunyatmakam. His influence conditioned by the three modes of material nature. And he's going, Tat Kritam Chabipadyate, he's going through so many miseries. So, therefore, this purport, I should be interested. Oh, he saw me. What did he, and what he's talking, what is probably going to tell me in terms of this understanding of this verse? Because this verse just says that Srila Vyasadeva saw each one of us. Now, a Prabhupada is going to extend that, expand that, give some clarity to that. So let's hear the clarity. The root cause of suffering by the materialistic living being, that means me and you, is pointed out with remedial measures which are to be taken, are to be undertaken, and also the ultimate perfection to be gained. So Vyasadeva saw the problem, the root cause, not just the problem, the root cause of suffering, which is brilliant, because we're all trying to solve all our suffering, right? Instead of solving this one suffering and this problem and this issue and this challenge, we just saw the root. If we saw the root, everything's sorted. So he saw the root cause, so he's going to give us a remedy as well for the root cause. And he's going to tell us what is the perfection if we take the remedy. So beautiful. All this is mentioned in this particular verse. If I go back, where's the root cause? Okay, influenced by the material, the three modes of material nature. It's not really giving me the details of that root cause. It's not telling me what's the benefit. And it's not even giving me the remedy. But yet, Robert says, it's there. The living, all this is mentioned in this particular verse. So that is why we also need a teacher to reveal to us what is in the verse that I cannot see with my material perspective. So now Prabhupada is going to give us what is in the verse. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement. But he is now imprisoned by the external energy. And therefore, he thinks himself one of the material products. Such a beautiful statement. So wherever it says living beings, just put your name there, so that it becomes relevant, because it's about each and every one of us. So the living being is by constitution transcendental to material engagement. I'm encaged, and I don't want to be encaged. In fact, I'm transcendental to this engagement. Right? So this imprisonment of the material energy, this engagement, is what needs to be removed. And because of this engagement, because I have this material body, subtle and gross, I think I'm part of material nature. And due to this unholy contact, so as we go through the purport, note Prabhupada's use of words, note Prabhupada's analogies, right? Very, very appropriate. If we get this and we lay a solid foundation with this understanding, your future reading and association with Srimad Bhagavatam will be totally different. It will be on a spiritual platform. This is the journey. This is the remedy. This is the remedy. We're going to get to that. And due to this unholy contact, the pure spiritual entity suffers material miseries under the modes of material nature. We are pure, we are holy, and now we are unholy, and we are suffering material miseries. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted way of thinking, feeling, and willing under material conditions is not natural for him. If you're not in a natural environment, it's unnatural. You're not going to be happy. So not only are you engaged with the material body, but because of this engagement and the influence of that engagement, your thinking, feeling, and willing is all material. It's all unholy. Okay? Therefore, don't trust your feelings, don't trust your thinking, don't trust your actions. That is why when we think, feel, and will according to Srimad Bhagavatam, we become perfect. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by nations. So even your knowledge that you have is covered, your original knowledge. Thus, the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahman is refuted herein. Okay, so you're not impersonal. This cannot be, because the living entity has his own way of thinking in his original unconditional state also. The present conditional state is due to the influence of the external energy, which means that the illusory energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. Which means that the illusory energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. The Lord does not desire that a living being be illusioned by the external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but still she accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusory energy, because such performance of the illusory energy are also necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusory energy, because such performances of the illusory energy are also necessary for the reformation of the conditioned soul. Our influence is beneficial for us to reform. When we understand that I am conditioned and I am imprisoned and I need to get out of this conditioned nature, then we are now embracing a spiritual path. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent. Yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order. But the all-affectionate Almighty Father at the same time desires relief for the conditioned soul. Relief from the clutches of the illusory energy. So now Prabhupada is sharing Krishna's desire. Krishna wants us to become free. The king puts the disobedient citizens within the walls of a jail, but sometimes the king, desiring the prisoner's relief, personally goes there and pleads for reformation. And on his doing so, the prisoners are set free. Similarly, the Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of illusory energy and personally gives relief in the form of Bhagavad Gita, wherein he personally suggests that although the ways of illusory energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Supreme. So Krishna's compassionate nature, Krishna's fatherly, affectionate nature is there. Therefore, he comes and he gives Bhagavad Gita for us to follow and perfect, surrender and perfect our lives. Prabhupada continues, this surrendering process is the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering ways of the illusory energy. The surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. So the disease, the unholy engagement in prison of the material nature is there. The secret is surrender, to become free. Surrendering process, that's a remedial measure. And this surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. Association of those who are on the path of perfection, and especially association of the pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, by the association of the Bhaktivedantas. The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of the saintly persons who are actually who have actually realized the Supreme, men are engaged in some things. Influence of the Supreme, men are engaged in his transcendental loving service. The conditioned soul gets a taste for hearing about the Lord. And by such hearing only, he is gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. The whole thing is completed by the surrendering process. Herein also the same suggestion is made by the Lord in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. So Prabhupada, linking from the previous verses, where Prabhupada says, previously, those who wanted to perfect their lives, understanding this, go to the mountains, go to the forest, go to the sages, and take their association. Now we find in this world, the devotees and Prabhupada, his Bhaktivedanta purports, his association is going to the people. So we're getting Prabhupada's association exactly where we are. This is our good fortune. And Prabhupada beautifully says that by that association, the conditioned soul gets a taste for hearing about the Lord. And by such hearing, only he's gradually elevated to the platform. So slowly you're making advancement just by hearing from Prabhupada, association of the pure devotee. And what happens? You get respect, you get devotion, and you get attachment for the Lord. These will slowly, gradually increase and mature more and more, according to our intensity and according to our desire. And obviously association. This means that the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord both ways, namely by the process of punishment, by the external energy of the Lord, and by himself as a spiritual master within and without. Within the heart of every living being, the Lord himself as Super Soul Paramatma becomes the spiritual master, and from without, he becomes spiritual master in the shape of scriptures, saints, and the initiator spiritual master. This is still more explicitly explained in the next sloka. So Krishna's helping us both ways, through the material energy and through himself as the super soul, as the spiritual masters, as the scriptures, as the saints, and the initiating spiritual master. Prabhupada, I've shared two quotes. Prabhupada says, if we hear properly, the holy name will enter through our ears into the region of our heart and shower down nectar. When we are lost in the ocean of nectar, we will see Krishna. This is what happened to Srila Vyasa. And then Prabhupada says, this transcendental name of Krishna is so sweet that either you chant with 1,000 mouths or with 1,000 tongues, or 1,000 tongues, still you never feel tired. So we have to try to enter into these higher realms of experience, of devotion, of connection with the absolute truth with Krishna. Prabhupada continues. Personal superintendence of the illusory energy is confirmed in the Vedas, Canto Upanishad, in relation to the demigods controlling power. Herein also it is clearly stated that the living entity is controlled by the external energy in a personal capacity. The living being, thus subject to the control of the external energy, is differently situated. It is clear, however, from the present statement of the Bhagavatam, that the same external energy is situated in the inferior position before the personality of Godhead or the perfect being. The perfect being or the Lord cannot be approached even by the illusory energy, who can only work on the living entities. Therefore, it is sheer imagination that the Supreme Lord is illusioned by the illusory energy and thus becomes a living being. If the living beings and the Lord were in the same category, then it would not have been quite possible for Vyasadeva to see. And there would not have been there would have been no question of material distress on the part of the illusioned being. For the Supreme Being is fully cognitioned. So there are so many unscrupulous imaginations on the part of the monists to endeavor to put the Lord and the living being in the same category. Had the Lord and the living beings been the same, then Srila Sukadeva Goswami would have not have taken trouble to describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, for they would have all been manifestations of illusory energy. So Prabhupada is now talking about the material energy being separate and a distant away, like a shadow, and she cannot approach the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Supreme Lord completely controls her, and she's under domination of the Supreme Lord. She can never overpower the Supreme Lord like she can the living entity. And because she can influence the living entity and not the Lord, therefore the Lord is different from the living entity. So this aspect of Achintya Bheda Bheda, the living entity and the Lord are one and different. One in the sense that we also eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. We also spiritual in nature. The Lord is also spiritual in nature. But the Lord is spiritual, who is controlling the material energy. We are spiritual, who are influenced by the material energy, or have the potential to be influenced, and we are influenced. Srimad Bhagavatam is the samam bonum remedy for the suffering humanity in the clutches of Maya. This word, as samam bonum, means, it's a Latin word which means the highest. So we are given the highest medication, the highest remedy, the highest solution, the ultimate solution. So that means we don't need to look anywhere else. One time, Lord Brahma, he brought a scale and he put all the scriptures that he could get on the one side, and he put Srimad Bhagavatam on the other side. And the scale tilted towards Srimad Bhagavatam. You will not find a scripture as glorious, as powerful, as effective, as complete and perfect, transcendental as Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the perfect solution for humanity, for all the living entities in every position, no matter you're a human being, an animal, a demigod, it does not matter. In every single universe and creation. In fact, even if you're perfect and liberated, even if you're the most perfect of the perfect personalities, Paramhamsas, you relish Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the position of this brilliant scripture that Srila Prabhupada has given to us, has bestowed upon us. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the samam bonum remedy for the suffering humanity in the clutches of Maya. Therefore, we should be convinced and stop searching. It's foolish to search when you have the solution in your hands. It's like somebody looking for his keys when the keys are in his hand. I can't find my keys, I lost my keys. Where's my keys? Somebody say, you fool, it's in your hand. So we have the solution, yet we're still looking. There must be something, something a little more. I don't know what more one is looking for, but it's here. We have the solution. Take it and benefit from the remedy. Srila Vyasadeva, therefore, first of all, diagnoses the actual disease of the conditioned soul. And what's the actual disease? They've been illusioned by the external energy. So the problem is not, the president, COVID, your illness, your backache, your enemies. No, that's not the issue. The issue is you are being illusioned by the external energy, the influence of the external energy. That is the diagnosis. That's the problem. If you sort that out, everything else sorted. You will have no COVID, no problems with your illness, no issues with your finance, no enemies, none of the issues that plague you in this material world. Birth, death, knowledge, and everything in between will be there, because you will not be influenced by the external energy. He also saw the perfect supreme being from whom the illusory energy is far removed. Though he saw both the disease conditioned soul and also the cause of the disease. So he saw Maya was far away from the Supreme Lord at a distant place, far removed, which implies that where there is Krishna, there cannot be Maya. Where there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. Which implies that if I associate with the Supreme Lord and I'm where the Lord is, there is no Maya. And the remedial measures are suggested in the next verse. Both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living beings are undoubtedly qualitatively one. But the Lord is the controller of the illusory energy, whereas the living entity is controlled by the illusory energy. Thus, the Lord and the living beings are simultaneously one and different. Another point is distinct here, that eternal relationship between the Lord and the living entity is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. So now, I probably saying I am also connected to Krishna, and I'm connected eternally to Krishna. And I know that because Krishna has taken so much trouble to help me. So my relationship is eternal and transcendental with Krishna. In the same way, the living entity is also required to revive his natural love and affection for the Lord. If the Lord is doing so many things for me to help me, to bring me back to his lotus feet, to his eternal pastimes, then at least I should be intelligent to see that and then take the initiative to revive that relationship, that affection. And that is the highest perfection of the living entity. So this should be our mission in life. This should be our goal. This should be our perfection. This is perfection. Everything else is transient, is temporary, it's by the way, especially under the influence of the material energy. Under the influence of the material energy, no matter what your situation is in this world, one living entity is food for another. That's the bottom line. It's a world of exploitation. Every single one of us have been exploited. We are being eaten alive by somebody that's more powerful, by a living entity that's more stronger, by the forces that are more powerful. It's the survival of the fittest. And therefore, one will suffer. Then Prabhupada concludes, Srimad Bhagavatam treats the conditioned soul with an aim, that goal of life. Prabhupada in a lecture made this point. Vyasadeva was empowered by his guru Narada. Writing book is not a whimsical, whatever I like. No, you must be empowered by superior authority. Then you can deliver the right things. So Vyasadeva was empowered by his guru Narada. And by that empowerment, he's giving us Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can take the same verse and apply it to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was empowered to give us Srimad Bhagavatam, his Bhaktivedanta purpose. It wasn't just write whimsical, write whatever I like. No. Prabhupada was empowered directly by Krishna. In fact, Prabhupada said Krishna wrote the purpose. So we are blessed. Now, people may say, well, yeah, but I don't accept this truth. So that's a choice. That's a choice. Srila Vyasadeva did not realize this knowledge or did not learn this knowledge just theoretically. Like he heard it, he was told. No, he heard it and he perfectly realized it himself. It's like learning about honey and the characteristics of honey, but you will never know the true taste of honey until you open a bottle and taste it. So we are given through Narad Muni, through Vyasadeva, through Srila Prabhupada's realizations. They are seeing the truth. They are realizing the truth. They are living the truth. And they are giving us the truth. Based on our relationship and faith in them. And in terms of the process, we accept and we apply the process for us to realize the truth ourselves. Divya Gyan Hirde Prakashito. This knowledge will be revealed to us if we apply the same descending process that they have revealed to us. So instead of rejecting the truth that we have been presented with, because we have no other alternative, the alternative is, well, live in this world, suffer, and become food for others. Right? That's the alternative. So if one is happy with that alternative, then no problem. But those who are intelligent will accept this alternative that's presented. And yes, it requires focus. It requires one to create an ashram, right, of spiritual culture with the focus as the spiritual aspect as the foremost, right? Spiritual culture as the foremost, realization of the Supreme as the foremost. So it requires a change for us to embrace the remedy. Second last verse. So now we are going to be, Narad Muni is going to, Srila Vyasadeva is revealing now the remedy. Anartho pashamam shakshad bhakti yoga adokshaje lokasya janato vidvam chakre satvata samhitam. Beautiful verse. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the masses of people do not know this. And therefore, the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. So very, very wonderful points. And Prabhupada is going to expand on these beautiful points. Anartho pashanam shakshat. The miseries of the material miseries of the living entity are superfluous to him. We are transcendental to these material miseries. It's because of our engagement we experiencing. And what's the secret? What's the remedy? Can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. Bhakti yogam adokshaje. The problem is the masses do not know this. So Srila Vyasadeva, out of his compassion, therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. Because of its connection with the Supreme. Remember we said, Maya is far away. And that implies if Maya is far away, she can never be where the Supreme Lord is. If I can link myself to that which is connected to the Supreme, automatically Maya will not be there. So what can come in this world where I am conditioned, where I'm imprisoned, where I'm encaged, I'm influenced by the material miseries, come to me, which is connected to the Supreme Lord, that can free me. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says in the purport, Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. This statement suggests that the complete unit of the personality of Godhead includes his parts and parcel also. He saw, therefore, his different energies. So these are all the things Narad Muni saw. Okay? Even though in the verses it just mentions the Supreme Lord, the energy, the living entity, But this is what he saw. He saw his different energies, namely the internal energy, Radhavani, the marginal energy, living entities, the external energy, Durga. He also saw the different plenary portions and parts of the plenary portions, namely his different incarnations also. And he specifically observed the unwanted miseries of the conditioned souls who are bewildered by external energy. So he saw everything through trance. And at last, he saw the remedial measures for the conditioned soul. So he saw the living entity, he saw the miseries of the living entities, and he saw the remedial measure. And what was the remedial measure? Namely, the process of devotional service. And that is why you'll see Prabhupada and our acharyas in our line keep stressing devotional service, devotional service, devotional service. Why? Because that's the remedy. Everything else is superfluous. Everything else is, by the way, everything is temporary. Everything else will not achieve the desired result. It'll just complicate matters or give you a little, step ahead, advancement. But it's not going to cure the disease. It is a great transcendental science and begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, and glories, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on a mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. This is the exact statement that Narad Muni himself experienced. And we covered that in the purport when we covered Narad Muni's experience. This revival of our dormant affection or love of God does not depend on a mechanical system. Oh, I need to chant so many rounds, I need to hear, okay, if I just do that, I'll get perfection. No. The reason we are doing that is to attract the attention of Krishna. It's about a loving relationship. It's not about a gunpoint. It's not about a bribe. It's not about getting brownie points. It's about attracting the affection of Krishna. And we can attract the affection of Krishna by glorifying him, because by glorifying him, he becomes pleased. And that's the essence of bhakti. I want to please the Lord, because that's my eternal relationship. As a son tries to please the father, as a servant tries to please the master. The goal is for us to act in such a way that we please the Lord. When the Lord is solely and wholly pleased, then he will shower his causeless mercy. And once he showers his causeless mercy, we are free. Okay? So it's not a mechanical process. It's a process of grace. It's a process of descending. We are practicing, we are hearing and chanting, trying to engage in activities that pleases the Lord, serving his devotees, etc. And in this way, please the Lord and his grace descends. If we please Srila Prabhupada, his grace descends. We please the Vaishnavas, his grace descends. We follow scripture, his grace descends. We associate devotees, hear and chant, his grace descends. When he's sufficiently pleased with our efforts, he sees we're serious, then automatically, when Krishna bestows his mercy, we achieve perfection. He may endow him with his loving devotional service, but even with the prescribed forms of hearing and chanting, there is at once mitigation of the superfluous unwanted miseries of the material existence. So it's not a mechanical process, but just if I begin with the mechanical process of hearing and chanting, I become free from the kleshagni and subhada, the material superfluous, unwanted miseries. So I become free even from the miseries. I may not, get pure love of Krishna, but at least I become free from miseries. Such mitigation of material affection does not wait for the development of transcendental knowledge, which means you don't need to become free from material affection, material disease to get transcendental knowledge. Rather, knowledge is dependent on devotional service for the ultimate realization of the supreme truth. So you could be in whatever situation you are. If you engage in devotional service, you get knowledge. And through that knowledge, it will enhance your practice and intention, attitude of application, right? Not in a, there's the receiver's mood, which means you're receiving knowledge, and not in the achiever's mood. So it'll allow you to apply your devotional service with the proper attitude of receiving, of keeping your heart open and receiving, waiting for that mercy to descend, not in achiever's mode. Oh yes, I chanted 64 rounds, Krishna, you're supposed to give me mercy. I offered so many candles, and still I'm in this material world. I still have to lose my job. I don't like that. So not in that mood, because in that mood, you'll never achieve perfection. We see the example here of Putna. Putna, she didn't perform a process of mechanical system of hearing and chanting about Krishna. No, she came to kill Krishna. But because she had the intention of serving Krishna, Krishna ignored all her negative aspects and amplified this one aspect. Oh, you want to serve me like a mother? Okay. And liberated her as a nurse in the spiritual world. This is descending. This is grace. This is Krishna's independence. This is Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do whatever he wants. And when we accept that I'm simply a servant, I'm insignificant, my Lord, I'm simply going to continue, and however you want to reciprocate, please reciprocate. But I want to return to your shelter. I want to serve you again. I want to revive my loving dormant. Srila Prabhupada is encouraging us. This is what should be the perfection of our life. So please bestow upon me your grace so that I can revive my loving relationship. Prabhupada in a few lectures mentioned Sattvata Samitam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is Sattvata Samitam, spiritual knowledge. It has nothing to do with anything material, simply spiritual knowledge. That is why Maya cannot touch it, because Maya is material knowledge. Bhagavatam is spiritual knowledge. Vidvam, followers of previous acharyas who are representative of Krishna. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for persons who want to finish this life of anartha, meaningless life. This is our life. Meaningless life, anartha. Whereas if you ask people in this world, oh, we got purpose, our purpose in life, we have purpose, we have great meaning. Those who are vidvans, those who are learned, they say, no. You are not connected with Krishna, meaningless. You don't have pure devotional service. You are not, if you are encaged, means you are living a meaningless life. For them is Srimad Bhagavatam. So those who want to perfect life, those who want to finish this meaningless life and return back to our original life, for them, this is the Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is for them. Vyasadeva has given us, we should study very carefully. And we have to, we have tried to give each and every word's meaning and translation and purport, consulting all the big acharyas. So Prabhupada already did the heavy lifting. We're not even going through the word and learning the Sanskrit. We are trying to, at least get the essential understanding from the purports. Acharya Purusho Veda. One who is following the footsteps of Acharyas, he knows. He knows everything. So that is explained everywhere. Evam para praptam, at Acharyas. We don't create any meaning. Acharyavan. One has to accept a bona fide spiritual master and take knowledge from him. Vidwan. Vidwan means who is following Vidwan. Vidwan does not mean one has to become a big cremation logician. No. Vidwan means one who follows the previous Acharyas, who is representative of Krishna. Is Vidwan. And Prabhupada is perfectly following that parampara. So we are receiving perfect knowledge. No one will be able to defeat the truth of the Bhagavatam. It does not exist. They will never do it. It's impossible. That's why you'll find the Mayavadis, they'll never, ever go into giving a commentary on the Bhagavatam, because they know they'll be defeated. Just from the first verse, you'll be defeated. So we are given the truth. And that is a great, great, great fortune. Hygienic principle, health question, economic question, everything solved. This morning time, in every house, you can go. Either they are sleeping or they are drinking bed tea without washing mouth. And all the germs are going within the tea. And they are being infected within the intestines. And they are getting so many diseases. But they will not understand. But here, the Bhakti Yogam, everyone rises early in the morning and then washes himself, takes bath, becomes cleansed, and chant Hare Krishna mantra, read book. This is Bhakti Yoga. Automatically everything will be hygienic principle, health question, economic question, and social and political, everything will be solved. It's not joking. Anartha Pashanam Chakshat Bhakti Yogam Dakshaje. So this is the solution. Last verse for today, text 7. Yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishna paramam purushe bhaktir utpadyate pumsam shokko moho payapaha. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So in the 4th verse, we heard how Srila Vyasadeva saw Purushoparam. And here in the 2nd line, it says Krishna Param Purushe. That Purushoparam, Prabhupada already told us it was Krishna. And here in this verse, it's verified. It is Krishna. So Krishna again is verified as the absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. And his devotional service, Bhaktir, his devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, that is the perfection. And this can be achieved simply by giving oral reception to this Srimad Bhagavatam. And this feeling of love, devotional service will manifest. And when this pure devotional service manifests just by giving oral reception to the scripture, because the scripture is transcendental. The scripture is infused with Radhavani's Shakti, with the potency of Radhavani. Because it's all about devotional service. And because it's connected on that level, transcendental, and when we're connected to it just by oral reception, that love will manifest. And when that loving feeling manifests, it will at once extinguish shoka, moho, payapaha, lamentation, illusion, fearlessness, and fearfulness. Prabhupada in the purport says, there are various senses of which the ear is the most effective. This sense works even when a man is deep asleep. One can protect himself from the hands of an enemy while awake, but while asleep, one is protected by the ear only. The importance of hearing is mentioned here in connection with the attainment of the highest perfection of life, namely getting free from the 3 material pangs. Everyone, is full of lamentation at every moment. He is after the mirage of illusory things and is always afraid of his supposed enemy. These are the primary symptoms of material disease. And it is definitely suggested herein that simply by hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one gets attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. And as soon as this is effected, the symptoms of material disease disappear. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead, and in this statement, the all-perfect personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, is clearly confirmed. The ultimate result of devotional service is to develop genuine love for the Supreme Personality. Love is a word which is often used in relation with men and women, and love is the only word that can be properly used to indicate the relationship between Lord Krishna and the living entity. The living entities are mentioned as Prakriti in Bhagavad Gita, and in Sanskrit, Prakriti is a feminine object. The Lord is always described as Parama Purusha, or Supreme Male Personality. Thus, the affection between the Lord and the living entity is sometimes like that between the male and female. Therefore, the term love of God is quite appropriate. So hearing is extremely important. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very important. It's more important than knowing. And we'll speak a little about that. Next slide. By hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, we automatically will get whatever is required for us to perfect our lives. So it's interesting, in the Kena Upanishad, it is described that it, Brahman, is known to him to whom it is unknown. He does not know to whom it is known. It is unknown to those who know well and known to those who do not know. Meaning, if somebody says, oh, I know God, I know Brahman, I know the absolute truth, means he does not know. Somebody says, I don't know the absolute truth, means he knows. So when we expose ourselves to Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. It's the absolute truth, which means that Srimad Bhagavatam is Radha and Krishna with the living entities and eternal pastimes. And when we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we are getting knowledge from the Bhagavatam. But that does not mean that when we get that knowledge, we know the absolute truth. That is not possible. One father sent his son from Vrindavan. They were staying in Vrindavan. So he sent his son to go to Benares to be educated. Benares at that time was the seat of learning. So the son went to Benares and learned many, many, many scriptures. Then he came back and his father said, so you've learned, you receive education? He said, yes. And the father said, and the son said, yes, I learned many scriptures, whole list of scriptures. And the father said, did you learn Srimad Bhagavatam? And he said, oh no, that wasn't on the list. So then father said, okay, that means you don't have education. You don't have true knowledge. You don't have true education. Go back. So he went back to Benares, go learn Bhagavatam. He learned the Srimad Bhagavatam, came back. Father says, so did you learn Srimad Bhagavatam now? And he said, yes, now I got education. Now I realize what education is. So then the father said, so now you know Srimad Bhagavatam? And the son said, yes. So the father said, you don't know Bhagavatam, go back. So he went back to learn Srimad Bhagavatam again. Then he came back. Father said, so you've learned Srimad Bhagavatam the second time now? Yes. So you've understood Srimad Bhagavatam? And the son said, actually, second time When I read Srimad Bhagavatam, I understood that I didn't know everything. I have actually, missed quite a few points. So then the father said, so now you know Srimad Bhagavatam? And the son said, yes. So father said, you still don't know Bhagavatam, go back. So he went again and learned Srimad Bhagavatam. And this time came back, father said, so now you know Srimad Bhagavatam? And the son said, no, I don't know Srimad Bhagavatam. And the father said, now you know Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the point. Why will we never know Srimad Bhagavatam? Because it is Krishna himself. And no one can know Krishna. He is unlimited. For somebody to say, I know Bhagavatam, means they don't know. All we're doing is taking advantage, reciprocating with Krishna's compassionate nature, that he has appeared in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam for us to take the remedial measure for us to revive our dormant love and return back to his shelf. That is all. We are not interested in knowing every nook, corner, cranny of this creation, and knowing everything technically about this creation, about the spiritual world, everything. No, that's not the goal. We are not here to become gyanis. We are not here to become knowers. We are here to become lovers. We are here to love Krishna. And for that love, the remedy is given, sufficient dosage is given. We don't need to know everything. We just simply need to know what is given in the Bhagavatam, associate with that, perfect our life, and in this way, return back, loving reciprocation with Krishna. Robert continues in the purport. Loving devotional service to the Lord begins with hearing about the Lord. There is no difference between the Lord and the subject matter heard about him. This is why it works. The Lord is absolute in all respects, and thus there is no difference between him and the subject matter heard about him. Therefore, hearing about him means immediate contact with him by the process of vibration of the transcendental soul. So we are directly in contact with Krishna. Sufficient, long enough, pleases him, and this way we become purified and become freed from the clutches of Maya. And the transcendental sound is so effective that it acts at once by removing all the material affections mentioned above. As mentioned before, a living entity develops a sort of complexity by material association, and the illusory engagement of the material body is accepted as an actual fact. Under such false complexities, the living beings under different categories of life become illusion in different ways. Even in the most developed stage of human life, the same illusion prevails in the form of many isms, divides the loving relationship and divides the loving relation with the Lord, and thereby divides the loving relation between man and man. By hearing the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, those false complexities of materialism is removed, and real peace in society begins, which politicians aspire so eagerly in many political situations. The politicians want a peaceful situation between man and nation, but at the same time, because of too much attachment for material domination, there is illusion and fearfulness. Therefore, the politicians' peace conferences cannot bring about peace in society. It can only be done by hearing the subject matter described in Srimad Bhagavatam about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So this is the remedy for peace for the whole world. For every part of the creation, not just the Indians. No. Krishna is not a Hindu god. Krishna is not a sectarian god. Vyasadeva didn't see God. Oh, I saw Hindu God, and look, I was looking for another God that's universal. No, he saw a universal God. He saw the universal Supreme Personality, applicable for everyone. Bhagavatam is for every personality. No scripture has the glories of Krishna as extensive as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, it's the peace formula for everyone. The foolish politicians may go on holding peace and summit conferences for hundreds of years, but they will fail to achieve success. Until we reach the stage of re-establishing our lost relationship with Krishna, the illusion of accepting the body as itself will prevail, and thus fearfulness will also prevail. As for the validity of Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from revealed scriptures. And there are hundreds and thousands of evidences from personal experiences of devotees in various places, like Vrindavan, Navadipuri. Even in the Kaumudi dictionary, synonyms of Krishna are given as the son of Yashoda and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parabrahman. Conclusion is that simply by hearing the Vedic literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam, one can have direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, and thereby one can attain the highest perfection of life by transcending worldly miseries, illusion, fearfulness. These are the practical tests for one who has actually given a submissive hearing the readings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Wonderful. Solution, evidence, result. The ball is in our court. How much do we want to submissively hear and read Srimad Bhagavatam? And in conclusion, actually second last slide, in Srila Prabhupada's purports, in lectures, Prabhupada says, Vyasadeva is Vidvan, he is first class Vidvan. So this is very important thing because it is said, Lokasya Ajanata, the foolish men, they do not know that their problems can be solved only by this Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. They do not know it. Lokasya Janata. Therefore, Vidvan. Vyasadeva is Vidvan. He is first class Vidvan. Chakre Satvata Samitam. The Samhita means Vedic literature for enlightening people. So every Vaishnava's duty is that you make your life first of all perfect by understanding your real position and preach this cult, because Lokasya Janata, all people throughout the whole world, they are Ajanata. Ajanata means they do not know anything. So we should perfect our life and then we should help others. Simply by hearing, you don't require to understand even. Yasyam vai shruyamanayam. Simply by hearing, you don't require to understand even. The hearing is so powerful. This is stated in other places. Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana. Krishna katha is punya shravana kirtana. If you simply hear and talk about Krishna, you become pious. Even if you don't understand the Sanskrit or English. Simply if we become eager to hear about Krishna, then you become pious. It is so powerful. Therefore, it is recommended. Yasyam vai shrunyamanayam nityam bhagavat sevaya. That should be our practice. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we take this opportunity, we are opening centers all over the world just to give people this opportunity. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Anartha Upasamam Shakshat Bhakti Yogam. Then as soon as the heart is cleansed by hearing about Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that. Yare Deka Taharaka Krishna Upadesh. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also Krishna Upadesh. Because by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, you will be interested in Krishna Upadesh, about Krishna. That is also Krishna Upadesh. And Upadesh, instruction given by Krishna, that is also Krishna Upadesh. So this is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you go and preach and make propaganda about Krishna Upadesh. This is Krishna conscious movement. We are teaching all our men how to spread Krishna Upadesh, how to spread Krishna consciousness. Then Anartha Upanam Shakshat. Then all the unwanted things he has contaminated will be finished. Prabhupada in the letter, Madhudusa says, you are trying for a new temple, but our main business is Sankirtan and distribution of literature. If Krishna gives us better place, that is all right. Otherwise, we can remain at any place, never mind hell or heaven. But we shall only be very cautious about propagating our Sankirtan. So Sankirtan, chanting the holy names and distributing Krishna consciousness through literature. That is our business. In conclusion, Srila Vyasadeva has revealed to us through his personal realization, the material world, the living entities that are encaged and influenced the threefold miseries of material nature and our suffering. And he also shared a vision of the spiritual world with Radha and Krishna and the internal energy, spiritual world, devotees, all the incarnations and expansions, and the process for the conditioned souls to perfect our relationship, our loving relationship with the Supreme Lord in loving devotional service, the linking process of Bhakti Yoga, to give whatever we have in terms of facility, in terms of our abilities, ultimately ourselves to the Supreme Lord. We don't have anything, but whatever is given to us, we offer it back with love to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna as the Father accepts this offering. And through that process, we perfect our loving relationship and enter into Krishna's eternal pastimes, especially into Krishna's eternal dancing party. Srila Prabhupada says, this Krishna conscious movement is for approaching Radha and Krishna, to be associated with the Supreme Lord in his sublime pleasure dance. This is the aim of Krishna consciousness. So the living entity's nature, which is different from material nature, Maya, is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Eternality, Sat, Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, bliss. These are three different aspects of the internal energy as well. Here we see the Sarv Shakti, Krishna's own personality, has Sat, Chit, and Ananda, existence, knowledge, and bliss, like the living entity. The Sat is coming from the Sandhini Shakti of creation or existence, which is the personification is Balaram. Chit, knowledge, which is Samvit Shakti, the power of knowing, the power of knowledge, omniscience, which is personification of Krishna himself. Ananda, bliss, which is coming from the Ladini Shakti, the bliss imparting power, which is Radhavani herself. So our nature is a fraction of Krishna, Balaram, and Radhavani. And through the power of devotional service, we can regain our eternal nature. Now, in the material world, Sat means I exist, to be. But just to be, just to exist, just to know that you are alive and exist is not all in all. To know about my existence is more important. To know my purpose is more important. So more important than being is to know about my being. Like many people talk about knowing your purpose. So just to exist is one thing. To know why you exist is a higher level. But just knowing is also not the perfection. The goal is not just to know I'm eternal servant of Krishna, as Prabhupada says, but to engage in that nature. So that is Ananda. When we engage in devotional service, pure devotional service, now we are existing with perfect knowledge of our eternal nature as eternal servants of Krishna, in whatever relationship Krishna desires, and we aspire in the spiritual world. And that brings us to the end of this first part of the 7th chapter, verses 1 to 7. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Kantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions or comments? So Bhafana Prabhu has been sending quite a few questions or comments. Let's go through them. All right. Bhafana's Prabhu's first question, could it be that saying wherever I lay my head in my home comes from sannyas renunciation nature? Could it be that saying wherever I lay my head in my home come from sannyas renunciation nature? So if I haven't got your question properly, Bafana Prabhu, you can obviously ask. I'll also allow anyone to unmute. So if I understand you correctly, you are saying that, let's say we may have a place to stay. I'm attached to my bedroom, but if I have this nature or the standards to say, wherever I lay my head, doesn't matter where I lay it, just like previously in the temples, wherever there was space, sometimes the temples would be so full. So they, devotees didn't have their own room. The temple would be filled with brahmacharis. So wherever there was space, they would just put their hand, sleep, done. Bathroom, passage, staircase, you name it. So that means renunciation nature, yes. They didn't bother about, no Prabhu, I need a bed. Sleeping was secondary. In the material world, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is primary for everybody. That's not an ashram. If you eat, sleep, mate, and defend, that's not ashram. That's grihamedi. That's sense gratification. Ashram means spiritual environment. Now, it doesn't mean we have to artificially renounce, and I shouldn't use a bed. No, I can use a bed, but I'm using the bed simply to rest this body so I can serve Krishna next. That is Krishna consciousness. So if I don't answer your question, or if it's not clear enough or it's not sufficient, please let me know. Bafana Prabhu has another point. In the last chapter, Prabhupada mentioned that we will never be happy in the material world. No one is happy here within this universe. And what is felt as happiness is Maya's illusion. The illusory energy of the Lord is so strong that even the pig who lives on, even the pig who lives on filthy stool feels happy. No one can be truly happy within the material world. Yes, and that's how powerful Maya is. Maya means that which is not. So we have to understand the true nature of Maya. We're not happy. Somebody falls from high up down a staircase, they break all their bones. They're taken to hospital. They're plastered from head to toe. Now you go visit them. How are you doing? I'm fine. This is illusion. So we have to understand the illusory nature. Bafana Prabhu says, the worldly chiefs and the kings, and at small scale our fathers, if they are dressed by their clan names and glorified thus, they bestow their undue love to the addressee. Very interesting how glorification, if the Lord operates within such psychology, physiology. Yes. So if the chiefs and the fathers bless you because you are submissive, you are glorifying them, you bowing down to them, they bestow blessings, right? That is also a Vedic system, offering obeisance to the parents, and one gets blessings. So that is there. Why that's there? Because it's there in the Lord, in the Supreme Father. You bow down to the Supreme Father, you glorify the Supreme Father, and the Supreme Father also blesses you. Another comment from Bafana Prabhu. In course of a week, I spontaneously or unconsciously took darshan of the divine couple. I just for some moments got astonished by the humble state of love, by the sitting position of Sri Radha Krishna. Then I stopped for a moment to unleash. Interesting that love is struck with me astonishingly. Yes, so wonderful. We keep that cherished in our heart. We may get spurti. We may get drips of Krishna bestows his mercy in different ways to different individuals, different devotees in different ways. And when we get those drips, we keep that cherished in our heart. That shows that there's a reality beyond what we perceive. Nalini Kanda Prabhu says, wonderful class. It was so nice to hear this transcendent knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks for sharing such profound classes, most beneficial, inspiring to us. We are very grateful. Thank you for attending. and giving us association, Nalini Krishna Prabhu. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the glorious Krishna Katha today. My query, put in other demons, demonic beings that appeared in Krishna Lila also must have accumulated pious spiritual credits, enough credits to be part of Krishna Lila and to get to see Krishna directly and obtain liberation directly by his hands. Is it correct? Is it a correct understanding to say that the only difference between the demonic and the devotee is the mood in which Shri Krishna is approached? The demonic always focuses on Krishna with hatred and jealous, so they keep Shri Krishna in the center, but in the wrong way. And the devotees eagerly focus on Krishna in a genuine, unmotivated, loving service, so they keep Krishna in the center, but reviving the relationship with Shri Krishna in the right way. Is this the right way to understand? Yes, that is the perfect way to understand. In fact, we're going to be covering this question also. Narad Muni is going to be presenting this. It's going to come about how the demons also are Krishna conscious. They think you're Krishna, so they're Krishna conscious, but in the wrong way. So you are perfectly correct. They are also conscious of Krishna, but unfavorably. And Srila Rupa Goswami discusses this very clearly in Nectar Devotion. Anya Bilasita Sunyam, he gives the definition of pure devotional service. So it's Anya Bilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmana Viritam, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. It has to be Anukulyena Krishna Anushilam, favorable for Krishna. So Krishna needs to be pleased, favorable. The demons who are pleasing Krishna, but our attitude also has to be favorable, Anukulya. So the demon's attitude was not favorable, as you mentioned. It's hatred and jealousy. So generally, let's explain that the demons killed by Krishna, they achieve either Saujuja Mukti or getting a form of Krishna, getting a Vaikuntha form. Right? They cannot enter into Goloka Vrindavan. Putna was a special case. She was able to enter into Goloka Vrindavan because she had the desire in a previous life to have Krishna as a son. So because of that, Krishna fulfilled that desire. Mala says, thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful weekly transcendental inspiring class. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much, Mala. Masa Stali says, thank you, Prabhuji, for always sharing so much nectar and lessons. Thank you. Jagannath Prabhu says, thank you for today's most transcendental class, learning so much. Yes, thank you very much for all your attendance week after week. We are on a journey to really embrace this knowledge, digest this knowledge, realize this knowledge, perfect our life, and just consider the power, the impact. If we had to become pure and realize the Supreme Lord and revive our devotional, loving devotional service, and collectively we come together in Sankirtan, that congregational chanting will be out of this world. It'll be in a different dimension. And any living entity that comes in that environment will no doubt be impacted. The devotion in his heart for Krishna will sprout and be revived. That is what Srila Prabhupada wanted his society to be. The Nav Kishori says, Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavats Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful explanation. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So we will end here. Next week, we will continue with verses 8 to 11. We will possibly see some of you tomorrow in person at ISKCON Center, where I'm giving the talk. I think the registration is full, but we'll see you again next week. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramande, Hari Hari.